fuel gauge has a picture of a petrol pump. The arrow points to the side of the car where your fuel cap is, where you need to put the fuel in.
Hold on a second, don't grab that gas pump just yet. There's something almost every driver does in those few moments before refueling that is quietly wrecking their engine until they're hit with a bill that creeps past $1,800. In this video, we will walk you through the simple routine mechanics swear by before they fuel up. What's the one thing sitting in your pocket right now that could cause an explosion? And why does that one more squeeze after the pump clicks cost more than an entire year of gas? Join us as we show you everything you must never do before refueling. Running engine trap. 1 out of every 10 drivers keeps the engine idling while they pump gas. Most people shrug it off, swear they've done it for years without a single scare. You've heard that line at enough fuel stops to last a lifetime. But the truth, vapor low on the ground, right where most people never bother to look, gasoline vapor sinks. It gathers around the nozzle in a slow, thick cloud, the kind you can't see but can smell if the wind shifts just right. Kneel beside a pump and you will catch a faint whiff of it, sharp enough to cut through the diesel stink on your jacket. Now imagine that cloud sitting there while your engine throws off tiny bursts from the alternator, heat rolling out of the cooling fan, and those soft ignition clicks tapping away under the hood. Any one of those can set that vapor off like dry leaves under a torch. Fire crews counted well over 100 vapor flashes across more than 2 decades, and the reports read the same almost every time. Engine left running. There's a part of the story that never makes the evening news. Modern EVAP systems run a purge cycle whenever the engine's alive. Twist that cap during the purge, and you're sending raw fuel fumes straight into the intake manifold. The engine control module scrambles, the fuel mix slips rich, and the oxygen sensors take the hit. You feel the punishment the moment you drive off, the kind of rough idle that makes the steering wheel shake in your hands. Then comes the slow grind that drains people's wallets. Crack open a pressurized tank while the system's active, and the charcoal inside the EVAP canister breaks down into tiny black grains. They drift through the purge lines, choke airflow, because force the fuel pump has to strain almost twice as hard to keep pressure steady. Any mechanic who's spent nights in a service bay knows what that means. A fuel pump that dies long before its time. So the pros keep a simple ritual. Engine off, count out 10 slow seconds and let the vapor settle. Stay clear of accessory mode since it still wakes the fuel sensors and stirs up the whole fuel delivery system. That one small pause protects injectors, keeps the EVAP canister alive, saves the oxygen sensors, and spares you the kind of story nobody wants to tell. But turning off your engine isn't enough if you're making this next mistake, because what's sitting in your pocket now could turn that gas pump into a bomb with a single touch. So what's the invisible threat that causes over 150 fires every single year? There is a static electricity bomb in your pockets. You've seen those signs at every fuel stop, the ones warning you to stay off your phone while filling up. Most people glance at them and keep scrolling, thinking it's just some outdated rule about radio waves messing with the pump. That story died years ago. The real trouble is the static charge your body builds without you even noticing. Touch your phone, slide across the seat, wear a jacket made from cheap synthetic fibers, and your body turns into a walking capacitor. In dry weather, you can carry enough static to throw a spark you can actually see in the dark. If you look very closely when a driver touches a nozzle, you might get lucky to see a tiny blue flash jump from his knuckle, sharp as a pinprick. Now picture that spark falling into the vapor cloud sitting around the nozzle. Gasoline vapor needs nothing more than a brief jolt to jump to life. It lights at around 495 degrees, and that cloud just hangs there, waiting for an excuse. Safety reports from the Petroleum Equipment Institute show the same pattern again and again. People step back into their car, mess with electronics, build static, then touch the nozzle. Almost every one of those fires, well over 150, started the same way. Even if you dodge the flames, there's another hit waiting under the hood. A static jolt can scramble the CAN bus network, the wiring highway your engine control unit depends on. One stray discharge and the ECU starts reading ghost signals. It throws off EVAP purge timing, warps fuel trim data, and tricks the system into thinking there's a leak in the tank. Then your fuel economy drops, the idle feels wrong, and you risk sliding into limp mode without warning. That's why the pros follow a simple ritual. The phone stays inside the car. Before you touch the pump, ground yourself by pressing your hand against the metal doorframe. Let that charge bleed off. If you truly need to make a call, take a walk, 10 full feet from the pump at the very least. And here's the step almost nobody does right. When you twist off the gas cap, turn it slowly, ease it counterclockwise until you hear that soft hiss. Hold still for 2 steady seconds. Let the pressure inside the tank settle before you pull the cap free. That small pause keeps vapor from punching back through the evap lines and stops the tank pressure sensor from logging false leak codes. The fuel chemists do it. The test engineers do it. It's not fear, it's physics. Speaking of opening that gas cap, most drivers think they're being smart by squeezing in extra fuel after the pump clicks. But what if I told you that one more squeeze habit is dangerous and costing you more than your entire monthly gas budget in a single repair? Just one more squeeze. That costs $1,200. When the pump gives that sharp click, the one that tells you the tank's full, most folks hear it and still try to squeeze in a little extra, chasing the feeling that they're getting every last drop for their money. You will see people tap the handle 3 or 4 times, muttering under their breath. What they don't see is the trouble they're pouring straight into the car. Since the mid-1990s, every car on the road has carried a charcoal canister in the EVAP system. It's built to trap fuel vapor, not liquid. When you force more fuel in after the click, that raw gasoline floods the canister. The charcoal turns heavy, clogs tightly, and the vapor flow that keeps the system breathing comes to a dead stop. Then the check engine light glows, the fuel trims drift off, and the whole system starts fighting itself. Replacing that canister can run anywhere from $500 to more than $1,000, and no dealership is covering damage that shows clear signs of overfilling. The diagnostic logs tell the story right away. There's another cost sitting in the shadows. Your tank needs space for vapor to expand, especially on hot days when the sun bakes the metal. Take away that space and the pressure climbs. Open the cap next time and the vapor rushes out hard enough to sting your eyes. The tank pressure sensor catches that spike and logs false leak codes, and suddenly you're paying a tech to hunt down a problem you created with spare change. That first click happens for a simple reason. A vacuum sensor inside the pump spots the rise in pressure and shuts the flow off. That's the engineering drawing a line in the sand. Push past it and you're forcing liquid fuel into places built only for vapor. Surveys across repair shops show nearly 1/3 of fuel system failures link back to contamination and topping off habits. When that click hits once, you walk. That's the level the car was designed for. There's one more mistake that people keep making without knowing it. Park at the wrong angle and the filler neck sits higher than the tank. Air pockets form, the pump thinks the tank's full, and you lose almost half a gallon to trapped air. The fix is simple. Keep the fuel cap level or slightly lower than the opposite side. Fleet managers have known this trick for years. It's basic physics that never makes its way into the owner's manual. Now imagine you've avoided topping off and you're finally filling your tank properly. But there's another nightmare scenario happening beneath your feet, because while you think you're being responsible by stretching every last mile from your tank, what's really happening to your fuel pump when that gauge drops below the quarter mark? Empty tank is a death trap. Your dashboard is lying. How often do you let that needle crawl down to empty before you finally swing into a station? If your answer is pretty often, then you've been slow cooking your fuel pump without even realizing it. Most pumps pulled from cars smell like burned wiring and hot metal, all because the driver kept pushing their luck. The fuel pump is an electric motor that relies on gasoline itself for cooling. When the tank drops below a quarter, the pump starts sucking in air pockets instead of being wrapped in liquid. That's when the overheating starts. The copper windings inside begin to scorch, layer by layer, until the motor can't take it anymore. Engineers at Bosch have watched the numbers climb. Running low like that can push pump wear up by more than half. Once that pump dies, you're staring down repairs that run anywhere from $600 to more than $1,000, all for stretching a drive you should have ended sooner. There's another side to this that's even uglier. When the tank runs that low, the pickup point dives into the bottom sludge. That's where the rust flakes gather, where water from condensation settles, where every bit of dirt lives. It's the dirtiest fuel a car will ever drink. Those particles clog injectors, choke the fuel rails, and trigger misfires that shake the whole engine. In a direct injection setup, pretty much every modern engine, the injector tips spray at pressures well over 2,000 psi. A little grit is all it takes to score those tips. Replacing or cleaning them? You're talking $800 to $2,000. And that distance to empty reading you trust. It's not gospel. It's a rolling guess built from your last stretch of driving. It can miss by 10 or even 20 miles. When it says you've got 30 left, you might be sitting on 15. That's gambling with an overheating pump and the worst fuel in your tank. A mechanic's rule is simple. Treat 1/4 as the new empty. That mark keeps the pump covered, the injectors flushed with clean fuel, and the whole system running cool. In the summer, it stops vapor lock. In the winter, it cuts down on condensation. It's a small habit, but it saves engines every single day. You might think refueling at a quarter tank solves your fuel quality problems, but here's the twisted irony. Even with a full tank, you could be pumping the dirtiest, most contaminated gasoline possible. So what's the one vehicle at the gas station that should make you immediately drive away? Fresh gas is the dirtiest driving into a busy gas station, easing up to a pump, and there's this huge tanker truck parked beside you, flooding the underground tanks with fresh fuel. Most drivers think they just got lucky. Fresh gas, right? Not even close. Old mechanics will tell you this is the worst moment to top up, and they're not joking. Those steel tanks buried under the concrete have been sitting there for ages with a layer of grime at the bottom. Sediment, rust flakes, water from condensation, tiny microbes that thrive in the dark, everything settles there like sludge. It's harmless as long as nothing disturbs it, but the second that tanker hooks up and starts forcing thousands of gallons down the fill pipe, the whole tank turns into a giant mixer. All that junk lifts off the bottom and swirls straight into the fuel lines. A well-known petroleum lab once tested this mess and found that engines filled right after a station delivery carried nearly a third more dirt through their fuel filters. That gritty mix moves from your tank into the feed line, then through the injectors, and finally into the high-pressure rail. Suddenly, your smooth engine turns into a stuttering mess, misfires, strange hesitation under load, rough idle, and even early fuel pump burnout. And if you ever stop at a quiet, low traffic station, the risk doubles. Those older tanks collect water and rust that chew up injectors from the inside out. For cars running direct injection systems, this kind of contamination is brutal. These injectors are built to create a perfect atomized spray at insane pressure, more than 2,000 pounds per square inch. Dirty fuel ruins that pattern and turns it into a sloppy spray that wastes gas and leaves thick carbon on pistons and intake valves. That's the kind of damage that creeps up slowly until you're staring at a painful repair bill. The fix is surprisingly simple. Spot a tanker truck at the station, just drive off. Go somewhere else or give the place a few hours so the sediment settles back down. Stick to busy freeway stations where the fuel turnover is constant. Clean gas has nothing to do with price. It's all about timing. Fleet managers have followed this rule for decades, and it saves them a ton on clogged filters and injector replacements. And even with clean gas in the tank, using the wrong octane can ruin an engine just as fast. This is where the trouble really starts, because the numbers on those buttons aren't about power or performance like everyone thinks. So what does octane actually do, and why is everyone getting it backwards? Octane trap, and the click rule that protects everything. People love to say, regular is regular, like fuel is all the same. It sounds harmless, but it's one of the quietest ways drivers ruin good engines. The truth flips the common idea on its head. Engines built with high compression, turbos, performance blocks, and anything tuned for sharp power delivery need high-octane fuel for a simple reason. That higher octane resists early combustion. When a driver drops regular low-octane fuel into a motor like that, the knock sensors start firing non-stop. The engine control unit pulls timing to keep things from blowing apart, and power drops. Then comes the slow damage. Carbon begins packing onto the tops of pistons, and those deposits turn into little hotspots that trigger pre-ignition. Before long, you're dealing with worn plugs, scored cylinder walls, and a bill that hurts to read. Industry reports say nearly 1/3 of fuel pump failures come from contaminated fuel mixed with the wrong grade, and that number climbs every year. There's another trap people fall into. A lot of people think premium fuel gives any engine extra strength. Even ones built for regular. It doesn't. Low compression engines can't take advantage of that slower burn. In fact, it can mess with fuel atomization, giving you a shaky, idle and half-burned fuel in the chamber. Add ethanol to the story, and things get trickier. E10 is usually fine, but E15 and E85 dry out rubber seals and slowly eat into injectors if the car isn't a true flex fuel design. Mixing octane grades in one tank throws everything off too. The engine control unit just keeps adjusting timing and fuel trims, trying to match inconsistent burn patterns. That's how long-term performance fades without you noticing. Professionals stick to one rule: follow whatever the fuel cap says. Do not mix grades. If a car is going into storage, always use non-thanol stabilized fuel so the system doesn't turn gummy. Then there's the part drivers rarely get right: fuel additives. A lot of people toss them in first and then pump gas. That churns the additive into foam, trapping air and spreading detergents unevenly through the tank. Some cleaners that use polyethyramine can react with oxygen and make a thick sludge. The right way is simple: fill up first, add the cleaner after, then get back on the road so everything blends while the pump moves fuel through the rails. That single habit protects the high-pressure direct injection system that can cost a few $1,000s to replace. There's one last tiny step that saves people from countless check engine lights: the 3-click rule. A gas cap doesn't just cover the tank, it seals pressure in the evaporative emissions system. If the seal isn't tight, oxygen seeps in, and the computer flags a vapor leak. You can literally lose fuel to the air without seeing it. Twist the cap until you hear 3 clear clicks. Capless systems need the flap kept clean so dirt doesn't stop it from sealing. And every 5 years, replace the cap because the rubber hardens with age. A lot of drivers spend a few $100s on diagnostics, only to find out the culprit was a $10 cap that never clicked shut. There you have it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, leave nice comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting content. Check out another interesting video by clicking on the video appearing on your screen right now.